This is the weekend for hoop heads, a big basketball weekend. Women's Final Four in Tampa. Tonight, Friday, tips off South Carolina, Texas, UCLA, Connecticut. Men's Final Four set for Saturday, Florida, Auburn the first game, Duke, Houston the second game. Our Ben Portnoy is in San Antonio for the men's Final Four. So if you're there, please look him up and say hello. And this is your morning Buzzcast for Friday, April 4th. Good morning. I'm Abe Madcore. Yesterday, Thursday, was one of those days where every text or email I received shared anxiety about the stock market, and yesterday wasn't good to many companies or to our 401ks. But Chris Smith looked at the overall drop in the market since late January, and no public sports-related company has lost more value than ticketing marketplace Vivid Seats, which is down more than 40% with its share price. And that mirrors something I have heard, a worrying trend of leaders in the industry if diminished consumer spending results in fewer attendees for games and other live events. So we've been keeping our eye on projected ticket sales to see if there is a trend or a drop-off in ticket sales. Also, I was with a sports banker on Tuesday, and much of our conversation over lunch centered on the increasing construction costs of sports venues and new facilities. And these construction projects are so reliant on steel and other materials that tariffs will surely drive up the cost of these projects, although it's unclear by how much. There will be impacts financially on the entire sports business, but those are two, the live event and ticket sales and construction costs, that I'm hearing a great deal about. Certainly an issue we will for sure keep our eye on. Let's move on. In my weekly column in Sports Business Journal, I wrote that, in case you missed it, the PGA Tour has some real business momentum. With a number of new sponsorship deals, big renewals, they've had successful events, ratings are ahead of last year, and compare that to the early traction that Live Golf had after its new media deal with Fox Sports and the arrival of new CEO Scott O'Neill, which seems to have not really gained as much momentum as many people thought it would. In addition, the eagerly anticipated deal between the PGA Tour and Saudi Arabia's public investment fund seems further away than at any time since the announcement in June of 2023. A report this week out of London indicates that talks are not going well. It stated that the public investment fund failed in an attempt to persuade the PGA Tour to deliver some concessions in exchange for that well-reported $1.5 billion investment in PGA Tour enterprises. This indicates to me that the PGA Tour is growing more and more comfortable in its current position, and it doesn't feel it needs to make any serious concessions to get a deal done. So again, this is not a good sign that any deal is close. And we have a couple of things coming up. We have Live Golf in Miami this weekend. Keep your eye on that. And then the Masters next week, where surely any type of unification talk will be on everybody's mind. I'll be in Augusta for a couple of days. I'll report back what I'm hearing. But right now, it doesn't seem like there's any deal anytime soon between the PGA Tour and Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. You know, there are some brands looking to get into pickleball, and proof of that is that Major League Pickleball has a new title sponsor. Yes, they signed a multi-year deal making DoorDash Major League Pickleball's title sponsor. Now, terms were not disclosed, but sources told SBJ the agreement is Major League Pickleball's largest ever sponsorship deal. It's for 3 years and worth 7 figures per year. The series will now be called MLP, presented by DoorDash. So DoorDash gets branding on team uniforms, on court at league events. There'll be DoorDash branded food pickup zones. There'll be perks for DoorDash members, such as seat upgrades. It's an interesting deal, and DoorDash replaces Margaritaville, which had been the league's title sponsor. So why is this important? Well, as you know, pickleball is something that a lot of people ask me about. Is there a real sports business growth around this sport? And so many of the conversations revolve around revenue streams around pickleball. And if pickleball could find a television audience. So every time a brand like DoorDash shows a willingness to invest in pickleball, it will lead to more and more business conversations around the sport, whether for media coverage, distribution of content, new events, or other forms of commerce. So anytime a deal like this happens, it does open eyes, and it's good news for the sport. It's been fun seeing baseball in the mix, a couple of weeks of games, and the AP lists the payroll of each baseball team, and to no surprise, the Mets, fueled by owner Steve Cohen, have the highest payroll in baseball for the third straight opening day. Now, they have a payroll north of $322 million. That's more than the Dodgers, who sit at about $319 million. But even with Juan Soto's record $61 million deal, the Mets are actually down from their record high of last year. So that's interesting. The team with the lowest payroll? The Marlins. They sit at about $65 million, and that ends the A's 3-year streak as the lowest payroll in baseball. There are a few qualifiers, but it mostly includes guaranteed salaries, guaranteed income for players. So the top 5, the Mets, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Phillies, and the Blue Jays. Then there is a little bit of delta between the Blue Jays and the Astros. The bottom 5, the Pirates at $87 million, the White Sox, the Rays, the A's, and like I mentioned, the Marlins. So not surprising, there is a big delta between the top payers, the Mets and the Yankees, and the bottom payers, the A's and the Marlins, but some interesting data from the AP on baseball payrolls. A couple of things to end the Buzzcast. One new concept that could be great storytelling around the sport. Netflix will roll out a 6-episode docuseries which will take a look behind the scenes at thoroughbred racing. It's called Race for the Crown, debuts April 22nd. It follows owners and jockeys as they deal with major races in thoroughbred racing. I think this show will be interesting because there are so many interesting storylines around the horses, the owners, the jockeys. It's produced by Box to Box Films. All 6 45-minute episodes of Race for the Crown will be released together April 22nd. I think that one could be interesting storytelling. And finally, a legend in the business, Howard Katz, the NFL's schedule-making czar for most of the last 2 decades, will retire after this year's schedule is finished in May. SBJ's Ben Fisher reported the news. It was announced by Commissioner Roger Goodell to owners and team executives in Florida this week at the league meetings. Katz, who is 75, has been with the NFL since 2003. He also had important roles in sports media before that. Howard Katz is the person every team and every network lobbies before the schedule is released. They want the best matchups. They want the best games. They want them in the best windows. And then Howard Katz is the person they complain to after the schedule is released and they're not happy about something. So he has been a pivotal figure in NFL history. Owners gave Howard Katz a standing ovation for his tireless and really thankless work in putting together the schedule every year. Howard Katz told Ben Fisher he's not sure what's next, but he does expect to spend more time with his 3 grandchildren. Very well deserved. A hat tip to Howard Katz for a job done well and always done with class. And so that is your morning Buzzcast for Friday, April 4th. Enjoy Final Four weekend. I'm Abe Madcore. Stay healthy. Be good to each other. I'll speak to you down the road.